So we've started each of the last 3 weeks with big news about OpenClaw and what a full circle in some ways this story has come. Although I don't know if you can call it a full circle. It's a development that I don't know if I expected. Did you see this coming?
I did see this coming, at least as of last week. We knew that Steinberger was in talks with some of the AI companies. He also had VCs banging down his door. It was clear that OpenClaw was destined to become something greater than the sort of open source side project that it's been so far, but we didn't know where he was going to end up.
So, what have both groups said about what Steinberger is going to be doing at OpenAI?
Well, OpenAI has made clear that they want him to work on personal AI agents, which is what OpenClaw is. I mean, that's clearly been a key area of success for him so far, and OpenAI is looking to ride that wave a little bit. For Steinberger's part, he's made clear that he's dedicated to open source. He really cares that OpenClaw remains open source in the sense that anyone can download it, they can tinker with it, developers can modify it. That's core to his vision of what OpenClaw is. So to accommodate that, OpenAI is going to set up a foundation that will house the OpenClaw project. We're still waiting to learn more about what the details of that will involve, but it's sort of on brand for OpenAI to create a kind of bespoke nonprofit structure in order to accomplish a very particular mission.
Right, bespoke and nonprofit, and then maybe somewhat regretting the way that they structured
Yeah, yeah, and then
it.
I'm sure Elon Musk will have something to say about it.
Right, right. But so it sounds like this is very much this is sort of an acquihire in terms of the talent sense. I mean, they're not getting any part of OpenClaw itself. That's remaining an entity on its own. But they're saying to Peter, "Hey, we want you to do what you did, but do it for us. Help us build out our agents." What exactly is OpenAI's agent product portfolio right now, as it is?
Yeah, they do have many agents, but they're different from OpenClaw in a few notable ways. So maybe their best known agent is Codex, which is a coding agent, which means it's specialized for writing code. It's meant to replace the job of a software engineer. In contrast, OpenClaw, as we've talked about, is sort of a general purpose framework for creating whatever kinds of agents you want that can do anything on your computer. So sure, they can write code, but also they can check your email and your calendar. They can send Slack messages. They can do things online. You can text with them from your favorite messaging app, from Telegram. Whatever. It's much more general purpose than just coding. OpenAI also has deep research, which prepares research reports, and a shopping agent, which is sort of a specialized version of deep research. And they also have ChatGPT agent mode. But agent mode is really focused on completing sort of shorter self contained tasks on a browser, like book me a flight or fill out this form for me. In contrast, OpenClaw is very general purpose. And a distinction that we've made here before on the show is that OpenClaw is not itself an agent, it's a framework for creating agents. In
Right.
contrast, ChatGPT agent is pretty narrowly scoped. So I would say, on the one hand, that's something that Steinberger offers is this direction of more powerful general purpose personal agents. But also, to your point, I mean, clearly Steinberger is doing something right. He had this overnight viral success with OpenClaw. It took off like crazy with developers, and presumably OpenAI is interested in tapping into some of Steinberger's talent, and he clearly has a finger on the pulse of what developers are interested in terms of agents.
I'm also trying to put this news in context with what we've seen at Anthropic. We saw Claude Cowork really taking off and dominating headlines a couple weeks ago. This was around the same time that OpenClaw was coming into the conversation. Do you see this as a clear, OpenAI's answer to Claude Cowork in some ways?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I do. I think they will be sort of natural competitors. I think Claude Cowork will have a greater in with enterprises because it offers more security. It is kind of more narrowly scoped. Like you usually tell Claude Cowork what particular folder you want it to work in and what particular sort of close-ended task you want it to carry out. And then when the task is done, it's done. It's unlikely to be sort of running in the background indefinitely, the way you could set up an OpenClaw agent. So I think Cowork will have sort of a natural advantage there, but they're accomplishing different things. They're reaching for different audiences. I think it's interesting that Anthropic is not where Steinberger ended up. And you could think there are different reasons for that. I mean, one is maybe just naturally Anthropic is more inclined in this direction of enterprises, so they're less interested. Two, Anthropic has kind of an interesting relationship to open source historically, and you could think that maybe they wouldn't be interested in developing open source technology like this. And three is that Anthropic and Steinberger got off on kind of an interesting footing because Anthropic asked him to change the name of ClaudeBot. You'll recall OpenClaw was originally called ClaudeBot, and Anthropic saw that as sort of stepping on their intellectual property with the Claude name. So
Right.
maybe that foreclosed some avenues there.
But it is kind of interesting, trying to think about what OpenAI hopes to create with Peter Steinberger now on their team. I mean, I'm trying to think about if OpenAI would ever try to replicate something uh, as wild as OpenClaw, because you and I have talked on the show previously about, look, the tool is great and you can do a lot with it. It also means that there are security concerns that could come with it, and there are modes that really unlock a lot of possibility and also a lot of risk. And so, I guess the question I have for you, Rocket, is: do you see OpenAI really trying to replicate OpenClaw in everything that it was within its own company, or is this something where it will be a lot more guarded and maybe resemble a little bit something more towards the Claude Cowork enterprise solution?
I think we'll probably start with something that does have more guardrails. It has more protections against your agent getting hacked or prompt injected when it interacts with random users and random pages on the internet. But I think gradually we'll take steps in the direction of the sort of freedom and openness that OpenClaw brings. It is going to take a while to get there, but Steinberger has said his goal is to get OpenClaw to the point where even his mom could download it and install. What we've talked about so far is that OpenClaw is difficult to set up. It takes a technical user to do that, and it especially takes some technical expertise to set the permissions just right and implement the sort of security precautions that will ensure that OpenClaw doesn't accidentally share your bank account information. But if Steinberger's saying his goal is to get it to the point where even his mom could download it and use something like this, I think that's the direction we're going to be seeing from OpenAI. It just may take some baby steps to get there.
What has been the AI community's reaction to this? Have people been celebrating this, or have they kind of been saying that this is just the big getting bigger?
Yeah, yeah. The reactions have been mixed. I think some people are pessimistic about the future of OpenClaw now that one of the sort of large players in the space has grabbed onto it. People celebrated it so much because it was this open source side project. I think people should be reassured that Steinberger and OpenAI have doubled down on their commitments to keeping it open source, but there is a sense that it's going to spoil some of the fun and the weird, wacky freedom that it has unlocked. On the other hand, I think people should realize that Steinberger has been very vocal that he didn't have the personal time to deal with all of the requests that people were sending in for OpenClaw, for debugging all of the issues that were coming up and adding the security precautions that people were asking for. I mean, he was just overburdened. He needed a bigger team in order to grow OpenClaw into a really usable product, and he was also burning cash, spending money on developing it. I think he had said $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and OpenAI stepped up and started footing some of that bill. But I think people should also recognize that this is maybe the path that will bring OpenClaw to the masses or develop it into a fuller fledged product.
And if you read his blog post, I mean, he basically said, look, I didn't really want to build another company. He says, I've done that drill before. And so one question I had as I was seeing this news play out was, well, how big could OpenClaw have become in terms of a business, right? It's an open source project. Could this have been another multi-billion-dollar business? And basically what he lays out in the blog post is, I don't really care what it was going to become. I didn't want to do the work. I wanted to build the tools, which is what OpenAI is going to let me do. It does lead me to the last question, though, which is, I wonder how much OpenAI is paying him because that number is not out there. But I think we do know that he seems to have been getting offers from other labs as well. And so I do think it's a pretty hefty paycheck at the end of all
Yeah, I
this.
bet it is. Yeah, I would just say don't trust the numbers you see on Twitter. There's a lot of numbers floating around on the internet that seem like mostly speculation, but it's true. And he said he also had an offer from Meta, which has been throwing around some pretty big numbers in terms of compensation for
Yeah.
the people that it's acquiring. So, it's possible Steinberger was able to play them off against each other and get them to raise their offers. It's difficult to say, but surely he's being compensated pretty well. Yeah, if he had gone and made a startup himself, since it's open source, hard to say what would have happened in terms of revenue. But again, he had VCs banging down his door. I'm sure he would have had no trouble raising a lot of money, especially in the current ecosystem for raising funds for buzzy AI startups.
Well, I'm excited to see how this all plays out, Rocket. I want to thank you for coming on. That is Rocket True, our AI and robotics reporter here at The Information.